Bit of good news before we start. The helium clouds passed. We're back to normal. Okay, really interesting question. A question that was posed to me last week in the comments to one of my videos by a YouTuber called Deepashtray was the following question. Can or does the universe have a purpose without God? And he then continues, does God give the universe purpose? Or if God exists, would that give the universe purpose? First, let me say that he capitalizes God. I'd like to take the general example first, but I want to run the whole gamut of possibilities here, and also not just to look at purpose but meaning as well. So let's drive on with this then. And the first thing is the godless universe. Let's assume an atheistic standpoint. Does the universe have purpose? Well, before we go that far, the question that's often asked is, do our lives have meaning and purpose? And something that's often, the answers that people often give is that yes, they have whatever meaning and whatever purpose we choose to give them, that we can decide to give our lives meaning, we can decide to give our lives purpose. We don't have to look beyond that. But ultimately, I think on the grounds of purpose, you can kind of give yourself an internal purpose, but is there anything more than that? Is there any kind of thing other than that kind of internal, self-fulfilling purpose that a sentient being can perhaps grant itself? Well, that's a very interesting question. You know, human beings, I think, and all evolved life forms have a purpose, and that purpose ultimately quite frankly, is to reproduce. And I don't think you can really go beyond that in terms of an external purpose. And the interesting thing about that as an external purpose is it's one of these things that can pull itself up from its own bootstraps. It doesn't need to be founded in anything else. It seems to be a fundamental of natural selection. In fact, nothing is more fundamental in terms of natural selection than actually selecting for reproducibility or a propensity to reproduce itself. Even from the earliest, perhaps, chemical replicators, a chemical replicator that has a tendency to replicate is going to perform better than one that just stops replicating entirely. And this is the entire basis, is it not, of life, which is that it has to have, that there is such a huge selective advantage to wanting to reproduce and being capable of reproducing, that becomes its own self-fulfilling purpose. The reason that we have that purpose is because it is successful, and that is the only situation that is successful. The alternative, which is not reproducing at all, is utterly unsuccessful in the long term. So that life, including human beings, has this external purpose, which is to reproduce. Note, already we've lost meaning along the way. I can't ascribe meaning to that, I can only ascribe purpose to that. So we've lost meaning already. If we go back a level then, still further, and look at all life, what is the purpose of life itself? I can't really grant it any purpose whatsoever. It seems purposeless. There's this idea that perhaps life exists so that ultimately beings such as us could come around, which allows the universe to become self-aware. But that seems kind of slightly irrelevant and misty-eyed, I'm afraid. I don't see why we have to go down that line. We can see that there are reasons why life would perpetuate and grant itself purpose on these core grounds of natural selection, favouring organisms that have a propensity to reproduce over those that don't. So why do we need to go any further? Surely it's just sentimentality that's driving us to these other kinds of conclusions. So this is the problem then. I've only gone back to life on Earth, and does life on Earth in its totality have a purpose? And already I can't find one. I've not even left the planet, and already I'm in the shit in terms of granting an atheistic universe purpose. So does the universe have purpose without a God? No, or if it does, I can't fathom what it could possibly be. But what about the alternative scenario then, that there is a God, that there is a creative force in the universe? Well, clearly that does grant the possibility of an external purpose, that the purpose of the universe is in some fashion related to that deity. And I wrote down 3 reasons why a deity, why a universal creator would want to create a universe, what their purpose would be for creating a universe. And 3 things that I came up for would be to inform them, to take pleasure in their own creative skills, the way that we make things just to take pleasure in our own creative skills, and the third one will be to entertain. You know, one argument that I'm really keen on is this simulation argument of Nick Bostrom's. I bring it up quite often, but I think it illuminates a lot of these discussions. And so imagine, let's work on that kind of principle then. Let's imagine that I am in control of a simulated universe on a computer. Well, do I grant that simulation purpose? Well, I think I do. I'm controlling that simulation, perhaps to inform me about certain things, about the way other universes could run. Perhaps I'm running experiments within it. Perhaps it's entertaining me. I'm just doing it the way people actually use computer simulation of simulated much simpler universes than ours, but simulated universes, simulated worlds at the moment, which is to entertain. Or perhaps I'm the programmer himself, and I've done it as an exercise in my programming skill, and I actually take pleasure in being able to create this simulation. So those are the 3 things. They certainly would apply under that model. And you know, if you go onto Wikipedia and you look at a list of deities and you look down that list of deities, I think those 3 reasons are all possibilities for almost every one of those deities. But there's a catch here. And if you remember, I told you that the questioner had capitalized God. He'd made the question as if it was specific to the Abrahamic notion, the Judeo-Christian and Islamic notions of God. If you go back to that Wikipedia list and look down that list, there are 2 notions of God, and I think there are only 2, somebody can correct me if there are more that fulfill these criteria, but there are 2 notions of God that stand out from all the others. And that is the Abrahamic monotheistic God, Yahweh, Allah, whatever you want to call him, and the other one is the Hindu god concept Brahman. And the relevant differences between these 2 concepts of God and all the others is that these 2 concepts of God are unlimited. On the one hand, they are omnipotent, and on the other hand, they are omniscient. And this brings real problems here, because these things that I've given you, these things that I could fathom, which were purposes that a God could have for creating a universe, which was to inform or to entertain or to take pleasure in its own skills, all rely on that deity being essentially limited. If you're entirely unlimited, then on what grounds can you be informed? You can't be informed on anything because you already know everything. So that's no purpose to create a universe. To take a pleasure in your skills, well, we take a pleasure in our skills by using our skills somewhere near their maximum, not by doing tasks that are entirely trivial to us. And yet what we're being asked to entertain here is that God, an infinite being, is engaged on a task that is entirely trivial, because any finite task would be entirely trivial to an infinite being. So I don't see how it could take any pleasure in applying its skills in that kind of way. Nor do I see how it could be entertained. Once you know a joke too well, or once you know a scenario too well, it starts to lose its appeal. There is, of course, the classic joke about the chicken crossing the road. And you know, that joke has lost all entertainment value for me. Clever joke that it is, because I just know the joke too well. I've heard it too many times. And I don't even know that joke perfectly. So imagine if I actually knew that joke perfectly, how unentertaining that particular jocular comment would actually be for me. So this is the situation then. This is the answer to this video, which is that to the question, does the universe have a purpose without God? No, I don't think it has purpose. Does the universe have purpose with a God? Yes, the universe has a purpose with a God, as long as that God is not the God of the Bible, or at least the God that Abrahamic people believe in nowadays, or the Hindu God concept Brahman. Thank you for watching this video. Listen, if you've any thoughts on this, perhaps you have some ideas as to why you do think God gives the universe purpose, even an omniscient, omnipotent God, or why even an atheistic concept of the universe can still have purpose, well, I'd be delighted to know. Bye for now.